Um, Imagine for a second being completely trapped by your own sacrifices.
Yeah, that is a heavy thought right off the bat.
Right. Like imagine working so relentlessly to provide for your family, giving up literally every ounce of your own comfort, your future,
Yeah.
that you actually begin to resent the very children you're trying to protect.
It's a terrifying place to be.
It really is.
Yeah.
You wake up exhausted, you go to sleep exhausted, and somewhere along that brutal grind of survival, the love you have for your kids just gets buried under this heavy downward spiral of bitterness.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is, how does a family escape a situation like that? How do you break a cycle of resentment when the primary caregiver, the foundation of the entire home, is the one radiating all this anger?
It is a profoundly difficult dynamic to navigate, and unfortunately it's one that plays out in families across generations, across cultures. I mean, when sacrifice transitions into a prison, the psychological toll is immense. It warps the person making the sacrifice, and it deeply affects everyone in their orbit. It creates an environment where, every single interaction becomes transactional and defensive.
And that dynamic is exactly what we're exploring today. So welcome to another deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Real quick, if you are joining us through the Simplified Summary YouTube channel, please be sure to subscribe, drop a like on the video, and leave a comment with your thoughts as we go along.
Yeah, engage with us down there.
Exactly. It really helps keep these literary explorations coming your way. Yeah. So today, our mission is to extract the core insights from a truly masterful piece of storytelling.
Yes, we are looking at a celebrated short story titled Jyoti.
Which translates to light, right?
Exactly, light. It was written by the legendary Hindi author Premchand, and it's part of his famous collection Mansarovar.
And for those who might not know, Premchand is basically a titan of literature.
Oh, absolutely. He is widely considered one of the greatest writers of modern Hindi and Urdu literature. He was uniquely skilled at peeling back the layers of rural Indian society. He didn't just write plots, he revealed the complex, often tragic psychology of everyday people.
Right. And our goal today is to break down this narrative, examine the psychology of these characters, and pull out the most important nuggets of insight.
So you can fully appreciate the weight of this classic piece without having to read the original text yourself.
Perfect. So let's jump right in and start with the matriarch of this family.
Right. Her name is Budhi.
And she's in a really tough spot.
She is. She is a widow who has been left to raise 3 children entirely on her own. There is her 16-year-old son, Mohan, a younger son named Sohan, and a daughter named Meena.
And the text paints a pretty bleak picture of Budhi's daily reality. Following the death of her husband, her entire disposition just hardened. She feels like she has forfeited her youth and her life for these children, to the point where she actually frequently curses her late husband for dying and leaving her with what she views as this massive burden.
Yeah, she directs an enormous amount of anger toward her kids.
But to really understand Budhi, we have to look past the surface of, just an angry mother.
We really do. Premchand is masterfully illustrating a severe cultural and economic context here. In traditional rural India during this era, the death of a husband didn't just mean grief.
It was a total social shift.
A complete erasure of a woman's social identity. Widows were subjected to intense societal restrictions. They were expected to wear plain white saris, give up all their adornments, and essentially step back from the joyful, vibrant aspects of communal life.
Wow.
So Moody hasn't just lost a partner, she has lost her status, she's lost her future.
And there's a financial ruin aspect to this, too. The story mentions she had to part with 400 to 500 rupees worth of her own jewelry over the years just to keep the family afloat.
And we really need to contextualize that number for a second.
Yeah, put that into perspective for us.
In Premchand's time, 400 rupees wasn't just a handful of spare cash. That amount of money could sustain a rural family for years.
Oh, wow.
That jewelry was her life insurance, it was her safety net, her emergency fund, and honestly, a huge part of her social standing. And it was all slowly liquidated just to buy basic food and supplies for her children.
So when she looks around her neighborhood and she sees other women, some of whom are actually older than her, wearing makeup, putting on beautiful jewelry, and just participating in the vibrancy of life, it's not just petty envy.
Not at all.
It's a glaring, painful reminder of her own erased identity.
Precisely. Her heart burns with this agonizing jealousy, and her constant scolding of her children is a direct manifestation of that unacknowledged grief.
It's all repressed desire.
Exactly. It's a deeply repressed desire for the life she was forced to abandon. She watches others experience the vanity and the joy of youth, and it serves as a daily trigger for her. The bitterness we see on the outside is actually a psychological shield for her immense pain.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit more because that sets the stage perfectly for the central conflict. And this conflict heavily involves her eldest son, Mohan.
Right, the 16-year-old.
Yeah, and he is doing the vast majority of the heavy physical labor around the home. He manages the cattle, he milks the buffalo, he does all the grueling daily chores. Yet, despite all that heavy lifting, he seems to bear the absolute brunt of Budhi's relentless scolding.
Which makes sense from a psychological standpoint. Because he is the oldest and a young man stepping into the role of a laborer, he naturally becomes the primary lightning rod for her frustration.
He's the most visible target.
Exactly. He is the most visible symbol of the family structure that is keeping her tethered to this life of servitude.
So the inciting incident of the story happens when Budhi catches Mohan talking to a young neighborhood girl named Rupiya.
And Budhi's reaction is severe.
Oh, it's intense. She lashes out at him, calling him a sand, which translates to a bull, and accuses him of acting like an arrogant dandy.
She's just furious.
He claims he's parading around trying to look good for girls,
Yeah.
but he never even thought to borrow his own mother a paid-in.
A betel leaf.
Right, a betel leaf, as a sign of basic respect.
It is a remarkably petty accusation on the surface. I mean, a missing betel leaf. But it is loaded with subtext. The betel leaf is a traditional sign of respect and care in that culture, but Budhi's anger isn't really about the leaf at all.
What is it really about, then?
It's about feeling invisible. It's about feeling totally unseen by the one person for whom she sacrificed everything.
Oh, that hurts.
And the argument escalates drastically because of how Mohan chooses to defend himself.
Right, because Mohan tries to brush off her anger by arguing that youth is the time for dressing up and enjoying life.
Yes.
He essentially tells her that it's perfectly natural for him to be focusing on these things at his age.
Which is perhaps the most damaging thing he could have possibly said in that moment.
Why?
Because it accidentally triggers Budhi's deepest, most painful insecurity. The implication that youth is a privilege reserved for other people, and that her time has definitively passed.
Ouch. Yeah, I have to imagine that defense didn't go over well with someone who was already mourning her lost youth and all those liquidated assets.
It results in an absolute explosion. She screams at him, pointing out that when she was widowed, when her life effectively ended in the eyes of society, she was barely 2 or 4 years older than Rupiya is right now.
That is just gut-wrenching.
This is where Premchand's brilliance as a writer really shines. He uses a trivial argument over a betel leaf to completely expose the existential dread of a woman mourning her stolen years.
Yeah, she is furious that she was robbed of the very same youthful joy that her son is now claiming as his inherent right.
Exactly.
It is heartbreaking when you look at it through her lens. She gave up her 20s to keep these kids alive, and now she's being told by the primary beneficiary of that sacrifice that she's past her prime.
Right.
But this intense confrontation leads to a significant shift in the narrative. We move from this screaming match into a very private, quiet interaction between Mohan and Rupiya.
Yes, after the huge fight, the two of them manage to find a moment alone. And Rupiya's reaction to the entire ordeal is incredibly telling about her character.
How so?
Well, she doesn't become defensive, she doesn't insult Budhi in retaliation, and she doesn't encourage Mohan to rebel against his mother's authority, which is what a lot of people might do.
Right, she actually tells Mohan that she doesn't care about the scolding. She simply tells him that she just wants him to meet her once a day.
Just a small moment of connection.
Yeah, and the aftermath of that is amazing. This pure, unconditional affection completely transforms Mohan.
It provides him with something he has likely never had before. A sense of true agency.
Because he's so used to being a beaten-down laborer.
Exactly. He's constantly criticized, constantly failing to meet his mother's impossible standards. Rupiya's pure affection validates him. It makes him feel seen and valued outside of his utility to the household.
And we see an immediate shift in him the very next day. He wakes up with a completely different energy. It's almost like a movie montage.
It really is.
Suddenly, he has all this energy and authority. He even takes ownership of his younger brother, Sohan, scolding him to go wash his dirty clothes. He isn't acting like an oppressed servant anymore. He's acting like someone with self-worth.
And that influx of positive energy fundamentally changes his demeanor, particularly in how he interacts with Budhi. Instead of avoiding her or matching her hostility like he normally would, he proactively intervenes in her heaviest chores.
Yeah, when Budhi goes to do the manual labor, Mohan steps right in. He insists on carrying the heavy dung basket, and he takes over milking the buffalo so that his mother doesn't have to strain herself.
He demands to carry the physical burden.
Which is such a profound reaction to experiencing young love. Instead of it alienating him from his family or making him want to run away, that validation makes him want to serve his household better.
And this action serves as the undeniable turning point of the narrative. We have to look at the psychology of what is happening here.
Break that down for us.
Budhi is entirely accustomed to a transactional, bitter relationship with her son. They are locked in a cycle of mutual resentment. But when Mohan steps in with genuine, unprompted care, it acts as a massive pattern interrupt.
A pattern interrupt. I like that phrase. Tell me more about that.
Yes. In psychology, a pattern interrupt is something that unexpectedly breaks a person's habitual thought process or behavioral loop.
Really?
Budhi expects resistance, she expects a fight, she expects apathy. So when Mohan delivers non-transactional love and assistance instead, it shatters her defensive shell.
Because logic couldn't break through her bitterness.
Exactly. Logic failed, and working harder certainly couldn't break it either. It required a sudden, disarming act of care to bypass those walls. Her maternal love, which had been buried under years of exhaustion, is reawakened because she finally feels cared for, rather than just utilized.
That makes perfect sense, and here's where it gets really interesting. That one disruption doesn't just change the dynamic between Mohan and Budhi. It creates a ripple effect that alters the atmosphere of the entire home.
It bleeds into everything.
We see this play out when a neighbor, Danya, comes over later that day.
Right. Danya approaches Budhi to ask if she can borrow a rope. Now, based on everything we know about Budhi's baseline behavior, how would she normally react to this request?
Normally, you probably chase her away. We've established she is fiercely territorial and defensive because she feels she has so little left to give. She would likely snap that her rope isn't for the whole village to use.
Exactly. That would be the standard Budhi response. But today, influenced by the shifted energy in her home, Budhi does something highly uncharacteristic.
She happily hands the rope over.
Yes, she just gives it to her.
And she goes even further than that.
Yeah.
She affectionately asks Daya about her sick child and actually offers to go check on the baby herself.
It's a total 180.
She is demonstrating an outward empathy that she hasn't shown the capacity for in years.
And this interaction brings us right to the climax of Budhi's internal emotional arc. While Budhi is showing this new kindness, Danya casually mentions something in passing. She tells Budhi that Rupiya, the very girl Budhi had been screaming about the day prior, was just over at her house, kindly fanning her sick child to keep the baby comfortable.
And hearing that piece of information completely flips Budhi's perception of Rupiya.
It does. It completely strips away all of Budhi's negative projections. Budhi realizes that Rupiya isn't an arrogant rival trying to steal her son.
Right.
She isn't a threat to Budhi's authority in the home, and she certainly isn't mocking Budhi's lost youth. She is just a genuinely kind, innocent girl who spends her time helping her neighbors.
And Budhi reflects on this. She realizes that almost any other girl in the village would have held a massive grudge against her.
Oh, without a doubt.
After being publicly yelled at and insulted. Most people would be petty or vindictive. But Rupiya harbored no ill will. She just went back to being kind. And in that realization, Budhi's deep-seated jealousy simply melts into acceptance.
It's a beautiful moment of clarity.
She finally allows herself to appreciate Rupiya's beauty and her innocence without feeling personally diminished or threatened by it.
And it raises a really fascinating point about how generational trauma and cycles of bitterness are actually dismantled in real life.
Right. How does it actually happen?
They rarely end through grand declarations or logical debates. They end when someone introduces a new variable into the system.
A new variable.
Rupiya's grace under fire and Mohan's resulting kindness provided the exact variables Budhi needed to step out of her own suffering.
So, what does this all mean for the big picture of the story? Which brings us to the title, Jyoti.
Yes, which literally translates to light.
Right.
Premchand is illustrating that the light of young, innocent love between Mohan and Rupiya is not an isolated, selfish phenomenon. It doesn't just illuminate their own personal lives.
It spreads.
It acts as a radiant beacon. It dispels the darkness of hardship and bitterness that had taken root in Budhi's heart. It's a light that ends up healing the entire family structure.
It is such a beautiful metaphor, and it carries so much relevance for us today. I mean, I want you, the listener, to just consider the Budhis you might encounter in your own life.
We all know them.
We really do. We all know people whose default settings are anger, constant complaining, or defensiveness. But this story asks us to look deeper and recognize that those behaviors are frequently just masks for unhealed pain, a sense of invisibility, or just pure exhaustion.
And it is incredibly easy to react to those people with reciprocal anger, to get defensive, or to just write them off entirely, much like Mohan initially did.
Yeah, that's the natural instinct.
But this narrative suggests an alternative. It shows us that love and joy are highly contagious forces. If you can provide a pattern interrupt, a moment of unexpected kindness, an unprompted offer to help carry their metaphorical load, you might bypass their defenses entirely.
Could a little unexpected light from you shift someone else's entire perspective? That's the question.
It is a profound takeaway, and it leaves us with a final, lingering thought to explore.
Lay it on us.
Well, we are often conditioned to view our own personal happiness or our pursuit of love as a somewhat selfish endeavor, like it's just about us. But what if personal happiness is actually a form of public service?
A public service. Okay, I love that. Tell me what you mean by that.
Think about it. By simply allowing ourselves to experience and project genuine joy, just as Mohan and Rupiya did, we alter the emotional ecosystem around us.
Yeah.
Without even actively trying to fix anyone, a person radiating genuine contentment might be secretly healing the broken, resentful people in their vicinity. Just by letting your own light shine, you might be the exact disruption someone else needs to finally find their own peace.
Wow. What a powerful concept to walk away with. You don't always have to play the role of the fixer. Sometimes you just have to maintain your own light and let it spill over.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of Premchand's brilliant work. If you've enjoyed unpacking this story with us on the Simplified Summary YouTube channel, please take a second to subscribe, like the video, and share your most valuable takeaways in the comments below.
We love seeing which insights resonated the most with you.
We really do. Until next time, keep seeking out the light.